think this got compromised? Like, is Queen Elizabeth II okay? Or is she,
can
you give us where we got off track there?
My understanding is that she is. The vast majority of your British monarchs are in fact Germans. Okay. Queen Victoria was of the House of Saxe-Coburg, and virtually every other British monarch, including George I, II, and III, they were all Germans. Okay. They were all Germans. The European houses were all interrelated, including the Tsars of Russia.
I thought that was the tribe of Dan. Am I wrong, or?
No, they're primarily the tribe of Judah, because it's through Judah that the Davidic king line would be maintained. Okay? So all of these families, and you can point, there's 153 generations. There's a couple of periods in the New Testament where Jesus casts out a net and draws in 153 fish. Okay? Well, it's exactly 153 generations from Adam to Queen Elizabeth II.
And isn't she the one last queen or monarch that was crowned on the Jacob's Stone of Destiny or Stone of Stone?
She was crowned on the Stone of Destiny, exactly.
Now it's gone, right?
Well, it's moved back
to Scotland.
It's in Scotland now, yeah.
Yeah.
But the British people still possess the Davidic throne. Is still there now, maybe because, as my understanding is, Charles is actually part Mountbatten. And the Mountbattens go back to, they have a partial Jewish descent. So his blood is tainted. Okay? But Queen Elizabeth II herself, I understand, is a pure-blooded descendant of King David, going all the way back to Adam. Which answers. Yes.
Go ahead. That answers the question.
Through Noah, and that answers Reuben's question earlier. Okay?
Well, that's great. Now, I made a prediction in thinking this, that I thought that there's a good likelihood that Prince Charles will never be crowned king, and call it divine destiny or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
But I took one of the hints from the fact that the stone of destiny they get coronated on was moved.
Okay. Yes.
And that we're now after, and it went to Scotland. And why don't you go over the different, if you can, where the tribes are? We've got England, we have Wales, we have Scotland, we have Ireland, and then we have this interesting story of the potential for some daughters arriving in Ireland. So read that all together for us.
Yeah, that story begins in 1500 BC when the 12 tribes of Israel were captive in Egypt. Okay. A lot of those tribes got tired of digging ditches and making bricks. Okay. So they escaped from Egypt in boats, and many of the 12 tribes were seafaring tribes, especially the tribe of Dan. The Bible says that Dan abode in ships. Okay. So the people of Dan lived primarily at sea. Okay. Zebulun, which I earlier identified as Holland, also was a seafaring tribe. Issachar, Asher, many of these tribes are actually very good seafaring tribes. And there was a dispute between the two sons of Judah through Tamar. Okay, and the dispute was who was the firstborn son. Okay, so as it turned out, that when the two twin boys were getting ready to be born, Zerah stuck his hand out, and everybody thought that this boy was going to be born first. So the midwife tied a scarlet thread around his wrist. Okay, just in case something went wrong, so they would know who had the scarlet thread tied around his wrist. Okay. Well, as it turned out, he pulled his hand back in, and Pharez was born first, okay? So there was strife between the two brothers as to who was the real eldest son, because the eldest son gets the inheritance, right? Okay? So but it was given to Pharez. Pharez stayed with the other 12 tribes and migrated into Palestine with Moses, okay? But Zerah...
Out of Egypt.
Yeah, Zerah migrated out of Egypt, They went in ships along with several members of other tribes as well, including Dan and Gad. Migrated directly north across the Mediterranean Sea, founded Sparta, Troy, Rome, the Dardanelles, because one of Zerah's sons was Darda, and several other nations that we can identify, including parts of Greece. In fact, the city of Athens is named after the Egyptian god Aten. A-T-E-N.
Now, is that why Xerxes went after the Spartans?
Right, yeah. Well, there was more internecine warfare, and actually some Japhethites had been settled in Greece long before, as we discussed earlier. And so these Japhethites made war with the Israelites that came from Egypt, okay? But these, later on, these Roman / Spartan / Trojan Israelites migrated to Britain. One by the name of Brutus migrated all the way to Britain after a stopover in Spain and founded a settlement called Caer Troy. C-A-E-R Troy, which is today known as London. Okay? Oh. Right. That's so London was actually founded by Israelites of the tribe of Zerah. There's simply no doubt about this. We also have evidence that the tribe of Gad was heavily represented in this migration. Okay, and most archaeologists falsely call them Chatti, mistaking them for Hittites, C-H-A-T-T-I, when they falsely translated G-A-D, because they believed the Jewish myth that the Jews can only be Israelites. Okay, so they said, well, this can't possibly mean Gad. It must mean something else. So they jumped to the conclusion that it means Hittite or Chatti, C-H-A-T-T-I, but that's not what it says. It's clearly G-A-D. Okay. Okay. So now let's jump to Ireland. Okay. The island of Ireland was first settled by the Tuatha De Danann. And Tuatha De Danann simply is Gaelic for tribe of Dan. Oh, okay. All right. Then later on, the Zerahites came later. I think it was 100 years afterwards, and they actually had a brief war with the Danites that had migrated there first. But you will see that one of the symbols of the nation of Ireland is the wrist tied with a scarlet thread. Oh, whoa.
Now say that one more time. This is part of... Isn't this part of some of the shields or
right? It's on one of their shields. You'll heraldry. See yes, it's heraldry, and one of their symbols is a hand with the wrist tied with a scarlet thread. It's clearly Zerah.
Now the Stuarts, one of their symbols is a knight's hand, a medal, right, cut at the wrist, with a red line around it with blood dripping off of it.
Well, that's Zerah. That's Zerah. So now, the interesting thing about heraldry is that all of these European nations have heraldry, have symbols that predate the Caucasian people, okay, and go clear back to Israel, okay? And some of this heraldry, as I'm explaining now, predates even the Exodus. Because our European ancestors came first from Egypt, and they brought with them the Hebrew language, Gaelic, and Welsh, especially Welsh. Welsh is so much like Hebrew that they're virtually indistinguishable. Okay? And Berber was another Hebrew-like language because many of our ancestors went west. They left Egypt across land, the northern coast of Africa, and founded various settlements like Carthage. And as they continued to migrate west, eventually settling in Spain, the original name of Spain was Iberia, meaning land of the Hebrews.
Oh, okay? My gosh. Yeah.
Okay, many of the towns, cities, and rivers, and mountains, and lakes of Spain are named after the tribe of Gad. For example, the city of Cadiz, C-A-D-I-Z, it was originally named Gadesh, meaning men of Gad in Hebrew. Okay? I forget what Guadalquivir, it's a major river in Spain, but Guadalquivir means river of Gad. Okay.
Oh,
so Spain is essentially settled by the Gadites. Okay.